Hi everybody, I'm going to jump straight in and say how excited I am to talk about the Tilta Nucelus Nano because I've received so many messages asking how I get the focus right in my gimbal shots. For nearly a year I'd been using my Zhiyun Crane 2 with no way of changing the focus during the shot. I know it comes with the focus wheel, which I could connect to the Zhiyun Crane 2 wireless follow focus, but I just wasn't a big fan of it, so I stuck it out and just made sure that I kept the same distance from my subject to keep everything in focus. This was fine, but it was still extremely limiting, especially with documentary filmmaking. So a few months ago, I finally decided to buy the Tilta Nucelus Nano on Amazon and was seriously happy it didn't cost an arm and a leg like wireless follow focuses used to be a few years ago. If you're someone that has been filming with cinema cameras, especially with the Blackmagic Pocket cinema cameras, then you've certainly had to learn the art of manual focus. As I've said in my previous videos, I normally use my trusty Edelkrone Focus 1 for all my handheld operating. The only problem is it obviously can't be used as a wireless follow focus. So of course, I did what many filmmakers now do and turned to good old YouTube. And it seemed like the Tilta Nucelus Nano did a pretty good job at the whole wireless follow focus thing. It certainly isn't a silver bullet, and there are of course wireless follow focus devices which cost much more and do a better job, but for the price, it was perfect. I really like the padded bag that it comes in, which for me is a big plus as I travel for work a fair bit, so I need my gear to be protected. I also found it mounts the camera easily with the included base plate for the 15mm rods. Once you've got your base plate on under this, you can easily mount it to almost any gimbal. So I've already noticed a huge difference while using the Nucleus Nano during interviews. I'm now able to sit back with the monitor and adjust focus without distracting the subject. But as much as I've been loving it, I have noticed that when the battery is a little flat, the connection doesn't quite work as well or drops out a bit every now and then, but that might just be the particular unit that I've bought. But let me know in the comment section if you've also got a Nucleus Nano and experiencing the same thing. Overall, I found that there is barely any lag time, which is obviously incredibly important, but I do find myself feeling quite disconnected when I'm using it on the shoulder. And I think I maybe still prefer that feeling of being directly connected to the lens with the follow focus 1. So even though the Nucleus Nano won't be replacing my focus 1 with handheld shots at this point in time, it is a piece of gear I would really recommend getting for your kit, especially if you've got a camera that you often put on a gimbal. So I just want to quickly go through my YouTube comments on the last video and answer just a couple of them. And I'll start with one from Lorenzo Gonzalez. And he said, absolutely gorgeous. I'm particularly curious about the blend of Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and 6K. Any challenges, if any, you might have encountered using both in the same production, post, or color grading, and approximately how much of this lovely footage was shot on one or the other camera. I asked because, well, I'm going to have to do the same thing very soon. Thanks so much for sharing, and those are stunningly beautiful surfboards too. Shout out from Malibu, California. Thank you, Lorenzo. So it's about 50-50 when it comes to the footage. A lot of the gimbal work was done on the Pocket 4K just because the lens that I had on there made it much easier to balance. Putting on the Sigma 18-35, it just ended up being too front heavy, so I couldn't quite use that on the Pocket 6K, and I just stuck with what I've been using regularly, which is the Pocket Cinema 4K. And it was incredibly easy to mix the two. I can't tell the difference between the two sets of footage besides the lens that you put on. That might give you a slightly different look in terms of like depth of field and things like that, but you know, the grading side of things, it's you can put any shot from the Pocket 4K or the 6K side by side and grade them really, really easily. As long as your white balance is on for both of them, it's really, really easy to grade. They've got the same dynamic range. It might be a bit of a higher resolution in the 6K, but it's not going to be a noticeable difference. So the next one is from DD, and the question is which lenses? So for the surfboard shoot, I use the Sigma 18-35, the Art Lens, which is a 1.8, and I use that on the Pocket 6K. And on the Pocket 4K, I used the Olympus 12-40 with the Tilta follow focus, and that was on the Zhiyun Crane the whole time. So I kept the Pocket 6K on a tripod or handheld, and the Pocket 4K on the crane with the Olympus 12-40 on it. And those were the only two lenses I used for the entire shoot. And the last one is from Ben Tabukan, and he asks, were you on a gimbal for the workshop scenes? On the Pocket 4K footage, that camera was on a gimbal the entire time. And I had a question previously from Facebook, which was, how did you plan out the shots? To be honest, I went in with both cameras, one on tripod, one on a gimbal, without a plan in terms of the shots themselves. And what I'll do is a breakdown of how I shot things, but there is a shot that was cut down to a very small length. When the original shot was a couple of minutes long, it started in the rafters of the building and came down and pushed forward through the workshop around the corner to reveal Greg, and towards him, rotated as he lifted the surfboard, dust fell, rotated around him, came back and back through the workshop, and then past the cloth to reveal all the surfboards. And that was done spontaneously. I had a shot in my mind and I just did it. And the first couple of times it was a bit shaky as it came down the rafters, but it wasn't a shot that I'd thought of previously. It was just something that, while you're doing doco work, you just think of things on the fly and you try and achieve them. There was no planning of specific shots or movements in terms of how things were going to be shot. I had an idea in my head, but then everything was made up on the day. And before I wrap it up, I just want to say thank you to everyone for the great comments and emails that I received regarding my last video, which was a short documentary on a local wooden surfboard maker. I've been thinking about doing a breakdown on how this was filmed, so let me know if you're keen for a video on that. And like always, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and thanks for watching.